Mr. President, you have a quorum, and it's time to begin.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 14th Vineland Board of Education combined meeting. Roll call, please. Mr. Berman.
Ms. Costa?
Here.
Mrs. Caraspati?
Present.
Mr. Fiucci?
Here.
Mr. Holmes?
Here.
Mr. Rivera?
Here.
Mr. Sabrina?
Here.
Mr. Silva? Mrs. Spinelli?
Here.
And Mr. English?
Here. Thank you, Mr. Berman. In compliance with New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following, announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, the clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. At this time, I ask everyone please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Mr. Berman, do we have a resolution for executive session this evening?
Thank you. Sorry about that. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education, the City of Vineland School District, will convene into executive session for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12. Discussion is about employment matters and any matter falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as an attorney.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Fiocchi. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Caraspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Here. Is he here? Thank you. I'll
For the
take that
record,
as a yes.
5:13, Mr. Silva has arrived.
Ms. Spinelli? Yes. And Mr. English?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Thank you. What we're going to do this evening, we're going to have two special presentations, and then we will break for our executive session, and then come back after executive session, and Mr. Mustarell will do his budget presentation. So at this time, Dr. Gruccio, can you please lead us with special presentations?
Certainly. First, I'd like to call forward Mrs. Roxanne Durenzis from DePalto School, and she is going to be highlighting some of our students and staff this evening.
Hi, good evening. Okay. I am Roxanne Durenzis, and I teach 5th grade at DePalto Elementary School, and it is my honor tonight to share the accomplishments of my LEAP students. There are 4, and they are sitting in that row right over here. For those of you who are not familiar with the LEAP program, these are students who are big thinkers. Also, keep in mind that the students helped me to create the learning units, and all of this was done and is done virtually. So here are a list of their accomplishments: building model homes and testing their durability against the big bad wolf winds, and designing real estate billboards to sell these homes using convincing language, exploring the world of Disney, where they learn many surprising facts, like Disney World actually employs a musical engineer, and they even had the chance to meet her and interview her. Discovering smellitizers, yes, it's a real thing. They are powerful fans with a scent placed in front of the blowing air. Once discovered, the girls eagerly took on the task of creating their own smellitizers, then gleefully made their families test subjects. Reading from various literary genres, then incorporating literacy skills in art into units, learning, drawing, and painting skills along the way. Researching the moon, building edible models of the phases using Oreo cookies, assembling telescopes, and observing the moon. That's still a work in progress. We're not quite sure what we're looking at. Also, making mistakes along the way, which is my favorite part, which for them is simply a chance to be challenged. They don't often take no for an answer. They go back, try again, research, analyze what they are missing or didn't understand, then try and try and try again and say, I'm not taking that grade, I want it to be better. And I'm like, okay. So far this year, they've experienced all the important things big thinkers experience: experimenting, designing, analyzing, creating, inquiring. The list is impressive and it's long. But in my opinion, the most important experiences have been the times that they have laughed at themselves and together. It confirms that learning can be fun, even virtually. So now we have a little video that I made so you can see what some of these things are. And I think, Gia, are you helping me wherever you may be? I don't know your password.
It's the energy.
Oh, okay.
We just have to connect it to the Apple TV first.
Oh, I'm vaccinated.
Oh, I am too.
Okay, all right.
Should probably say that into the microphone. So okay.
Oh, he moved out of the way. We don't want to clunk him in the head.
Yeah, I warned him ahead of time.
Okay. It's not real long, it's short.
I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath.
Sanitizers in there too. But you have to open it and sniff it. One smells like trash. It's so gross. Did you try it? It's upstairs. It's in there.
I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith.
In the beginning, it takes place of her birth family's like little house, and then in the middle it takes place.
I hope you dance.
So the moral of the story is there's more than one path to get where you want to be. And of course, don't give up. Don't let anything stop you from achieving your goals.
Settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than just a passing glance.
Some things about the moon. Okay, so talk to me and tell me if you know anything at all.
There's a full moon, half moon, quarter moon, crescent moon.
That's amazing. So you know, I'm putting it down, so you know that.
The moon has craters.
Yes, excellent. It
And when
was.
there's an on it,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Cece, what?
there's been people on the moon before.
Yes, people have been on the moon.
And some people they see from far away, like a man on the moon?
I can do anything. I can do anything.
That's it. Okay, so that's just a sampling of what we've been doing, but I want you to meet these amazing girls and for all of us to have a big sigh because they are our future and they are amazing. Cassidy Keller, come on down. Cecilia Belmonte, Naylin Ramos, and Jamie Gonzalez. I have a little something for you. Okay. So, Cece, this is yours. You're welcome. Cassidy. This is Naylin. And this is Jamie. I told them that it's a teacher's dream. This is going to make me emotional. It's a teacher's dream to have children that are eager to learn, and thank you for making my dreams come true. All right, you ready? Okay. Go ahead, go up, take a picture.
Thank you, Ms. Dorenzis. And congratulations, girls. Keep up the great work.
Dr. Gruccia, just a quick thing on behalf of the board. Mr. Renzi, when you originally had emailed Dr. Gruccia and myself, you can imagine since last March, the emails we were getting, it was just a breath of fresh air to have someone step up and want to highlight what we're all here for, the children. And we thank you because we sure needed an email like that. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Tara Meyerson, Megan Greenfield, and David Tisch come up to recognize some of the staff in the VEA.
I think since I'm here, I'm going to go one more time because I do have one more.
Oh, I apologize. Go right ahead. That's fine.
That's okay. So, since I'm up here, if you don't mind. All right. So, things like this, like I could never do what I do, or the girls couldn't do what they do without the amazing leadership that we have. So I had contacted Dr. Rossi and I said, our staff would like to honor our leaders. And we all worked together and we wrote a letter. And it's an open letter and I'm going to share it with you. So it goes like this. For over a year now, our way of life has changed. We put on masks, students are learning from home, and we are forced to see our family and friends through a screen. Foreign phrases and words have become a part of our everyday vocabulary. Words like pandemic, coronavirus, hybrid learning, and quarantine. And too many of us have lost loved ones, and it all seemed to happen overnight, and it's an understatement to say these are scary times. Yet something positive has emerged. An opportunity to say thank you, an opportunity to shine a spotlight on great leaders who have faced the challenges to create and foster positive, safe, everyday experiences for others, an opportunity to celebrate two of the best leaders we could ever have, Sylvia Morano and Daisy Mercado. We, the DiPaolito family, have written them an open letter. So here we go. Dear Daisy and Sylvia, you are like peanut butter and jelly. You work very well together. You truly create a stress-free work environment, one that, despite the scary everyday realities, is a socially and emotionally supportive community for all school members, from students to employees. We thank you for the treats in our mailboxes, the positive emails, the inspirational quotes on our doors. We arrived and they just were there, and the pick-me-up surprises like root beer floats. We thank you for your willingness to listen, to continually remind us of that open door policy, to ask for our suggestions, and to support us to be the best versions of ourselves. We thank you for being nothing but wonderful through this whole virtual learning experience. You have especially supported us when it comes to contacting students and parents, whether it be making a phone call, sitting in on conferences, or getting in your car and delivering materials to students. We don't know what we would do without you and your guidance, and we're glad we don't have to know. We thank you for not being afraid to get your hands dirty, literally scrubbing desks and doorknobs when needed. We thank you for keeping us connected through the book club and Wellness PD. And most of all, we thank you for always putting the students first. If we had an Administrator of the Year award, we would vote for you and it would be a tie. Sincerely, the DiPaolito family. Okay, I'm done. And thank you for this opportunity. And it's really nice to get to do stuff like this. The community needs to hear all the positive things that are going on.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we will hear from our VEA members.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tara Meyerson. I'm a teacher at Mtss Elementary School. And again, I just want to say how grateful I am to our board and Dr. Gruccio and Dr. Rossi as well for opening up this opportunity to highlight our wonderful staff. And of course, through highlighting our wonderful staff, we're also highlighting, our wonderful students, because when staff is successful and have what they need, students are successful. So thank you. And before I start with my first acknowledgement, I just want to say, Roxanne, that was gorgeous, that was beautiful, and I want to highlight you, Ms. Dorenzis, for just being an awesome teacher and an awesome cheerleader, and that wonderful presentation was amazing. So we're going to clap for her. Thanks, Roxanne. All right, so my first spotlight, we're going to have 4 tonight. I'll start with 2. Our first one is Mrs. Lori Avina. She is a kindergarten teacher's aide at Rossi Elementary School. And Mrs. Avina was nominated by a close colleague whom writes that she is such a pleasure to work with and one of the most exemplary assistants that has ever crossed her path. Mrs. Avina goes above and beyond in her responsibilities. She is always efficient and helpful. She has developed a wonderful rapport with her students. Students love Mrs. Avina because of her nurturing personality. She goes the extra mile for helping the students feel comfortable in the classroom, and her calmness creates a safe space for anxious or upset children. Stressful situations never intimidate her, and she never complains or criticizes. Last year, she did an excellent job working with a child with special needs. What's more, Mrs. Avina takes her job seriously, is extremely dependable and diligent, always willing to start early and stay late. She is also amazingly creative and has always wonderful ideas for hands-on learning. Her organization and planning and adaptive thinking skills are inspirational. Mrs. Avina never ceases to amaze. She has been a tremendous asset to her kindergarten classroom. So kudos to Mrs. Lori Avina for giving her best every day in a crucial role as a kindergarten assistant. We know it is not easy, but you are knocking it out of the park. So we're going to clap for her. Next, I would like to recognize Mrs. Valerie Carbonera. She's a 4th grade teacher at Sabater Elementary School, and Mrs. Carbonera has worked in the Vineland Public Schools for 20 years. Mrs. Carbonera is an example of a true selfless team player and teacher who, amid this COVID-19 pandemic that rocked the educational process, she stepped up to the plate to help her fellow colleagues as much as she possibly could. When we all had to reinvent the wheel, to reach students as best as we can and to engage them, it was quite a challenge, of course, to say the least. But as educators do, we went above and beyond, we figured it out, and we all did it by working together. Mrs. Carbonera was nominated for this teacher spotlight by 4 teachers in our district, who are all so appreciative of all she has done to help them over this past year. And what has she done? Well, Mrs. Carbonera assisted her fellow colleagues, not just within her own school, but in other elementary schools across the district. She helped others navigate the virtual world by sharing hours of researching and creating an overflowing amount of resources. to share. And in addition, she assisted teachers with recreating pencil and paper assignments to digital assignments. Furthermore, she stepped up to train teachers on how to use important technology platforms and engagement strategies for their students. While teachers at times felt overwhelmed, they credit Mrs. Carbonera with their success with their students in the virtual and hybrid teaching environments. Mrs. Carbonera knows that if teachers work together, they will be successful in their efforts with their students, who in turn will succeed as well. All 4 teachers who submitted their nominations for Mrs. Carbonera all expressed how grateful they were to have a colleague like her. And I would also like to say that the Vineland Public School District is also proud to have her as part of our teaching staff. So good job, Mrs. Carbonera. And now I'm going to introduce Mr. Tisch. He's going to do another staff spotlight. Thank you.
Where to put the mask? Hello, everyone. Thank you, Board of Education, administration, and the community. I look forward to being able to spotlight some of the teachers that we don't see every day anymore because they are working virtually, but they are very much making an impact, even though we miss them so much in person. So I'm just going to begin right in what I have prepared. In a time when our educational system, along with nearly every aspect of our daily lives, have been turned upside down, there are teachers creating warm, inviting, and engaging learning communities. These learning communities are not easily viewed as in the past by simply walking into the classroom or peering into it. These learning communities have spread across the community directly into the homes of the students. This kind of impact is intentional, and it requires outside-of-the-box thinking, endless new learning and professional development, and an incredible amount of dedication. Tonight I have the privilege of spotlighting 3 of the most dedicated and caring educators I know. Mrs. Amanda Conley, Mrs. Kristen Biscoglio, and Mrs. Barbara Kuttner are members of the grade 5 family at DePalato School. This past summer, they accepted the challenge of teaching remotely for the 2021 school year. And what an impact they have made. These 3 educators have the largest class rosters in the grade level, making it safe for our hybrid students to attend school in person with smaller class sizes. With about 25 students in each class, this team is responsible for nearly 50 students on a daily basis. Amanda, Kristen, and Barbara have learned and implemented the latest technology and applied it to their virtual classrooms. From ClassKick, Jamboard, Kami, Elevate, Flipgrid, Epic Books, Edpuzzle, Bookit, Quizlet, Kahoot, ReadWorks, Learning A to Z, ThinkCentral, Google Classroom, ClassroomScreen.com, and Whiteboard.fi, these teachers are reinventing the teaching and learning experience for students. This implementation of technology has allowed for small group instruction in a virtual setting, something first thought to be unattainable and unmanageable. However, this team has proven themselves to be the masters of technology, refusing to abandon the best practices despite teaching under unprecedented circumstances. One of the most challenging aspects of remote learning is creating a sense of family when everyone is physically apart. Mrs. Kuttner has the unique role of working with the remote and hybrid students at the same time. She is in constant collaboration with multiple teachers while hosting small group sessions as well as keeping parent communication lines wide open. Her enthusiasm and desire to be the best for her students, families, and the team make her part in the family so special. The students in this remote family feel connected because of some amazing above and beyond love from their teachers. On Fridays, Mrs. Conley hosts an hour-long voluntary art club as a way to connect with students and provide some fun and relaxation at the end of the week. This is a time to do some directed drawing that connects to classroom learning and just socialize together and share an experience. Mrs. Conley even took snow pies to the face, delivered by her own sons, when we had that 3 inches of snow back in the wintertime. And she did that on video, and I believe it's on the Vineland Public Schools website somewhere, if you want to look it up. And I know her students enjoyed that. And that was a way for her to personally connect with them and motivate them to keep getting their work done. Mrs. Biscoglio records herself reading to the students as a way of personally modeling the subjects she teaches while personally connecting with each of her students. A student of the week is also chosen from each homeroom using the random name picker website. That student then receives a prize in the mail just because. How wonderful those students must feel when something special arrives in the mailbox just for them. Students of the month are generously honored by Mrs. Biscoglio and Mrs. Conley through a video presentation along with $10 gift cards, yes, that they buy with their own money, for demonstrating responsibility, positive work habits, completion of assignments, and class participation. These educators have discovered ways to reach beyond the technology and into the homes and hearts of their students. I am proud to work alongside such a caring, hardworking team of educators. They have taken a seemingly impossible task and made it a roaring success. The students and families in this remote learning community have received a first-class education as a result of the tireless effort and endless care of Mrs. Amanda Conley, Mrs. Kristen Biscoglio, and Mrs. Barbara Kuttner. Great things truly are happening behind the screens in our remote classrooms. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. Our final staff spotlight is from the school in which I teach currently. I partly wrote some of the information, but we did have a staff member submit this. So if I say our school, I mean Wallace School, because it is my school as well. In an effort to build relationships and form stronger connections with their students, the administration and staff at Wallace Middle School has been hosting Wildcat Chats on Wednesdays for the past 3 months. The Wildcat Chat idea came to fruition through an emergency meeting of sorts among a few Wallace teacher leaders, support staff, and administration. And what was brought to the table was the students needed more social and emotional support, and we needed to act fast. Within an hour, the Wednesday Wildcat Chat idea was developed, and plans were in place to push it out to staff and start that very next Wednesday. During the weekly asynchronous instruction day, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., Wednesday Wildcat Chats offer opportunities for students to learn, explore, and express themselves through engaging teacher-led activities that zone in on student interests. Students are able to express their individuality as well as further expand their knowledge and interests while having fun and getting to know their classmates and teachers on a more personal level. Chat topics and activities range from sports, anime, virtual dancing, learning to cook and bake, yoga and meditation, trivia games, arts and crafts, virtual field trips. We have a Wallace Pet Club, crocheting, and there are even times available for open chat sessions. The session topics are changed and added each week, although some of the fan favorites manage to stay put. In an effort to expand Wildcat Chat sessions to the community, administration, our awesome administration, is working with the Vineland Juvenile Police Department and Big Brothers and Big Sisters to host sessions in the coming weeks as well. The impact that the weekly Wildcat Chats have had on students has been exceptional and multifaceted. Within the first few weeks, administration and teachers were seeing better attendance in regular academic classes. Students were forming relationships with students other than those in their classes. And likewise, staff was also forming bonds with students other than those on their rosters, a win-win for all. Additionally, staff was also able to recognize and request immediate support for several students that were observed to be in crisis. So as you can see, this initiative has not only shown to be quite successful, but illuminates how very important it is to the Wallace staff that students' social and emotional well-being remains a priority. Thank you to the Wallace staff for going above and beyond in your efforts to support all of your Wildcats in not just their academics, but in their social and emotional growth, an area that is so essential. We applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call forward Mr. Paul Farinaccio, who would like to recognize someone in the maintenance department.
Dr. Gruccio, board members, and everyone else in the room. I actually wanted to showcase two phenomenal employees this evening. The first is Mrs. Linda Nelson. She is our departmental secretary, and Linda is a phenomenal employee. She makes my life better, but she also is so integral to the department. She's one of these employees that just rise above and always is committed. She's hardworking, dedicated. She fills in the voids within our management team. She handles attendance, payroll, and facilities is just not that modernized. We're techie people, but we have a lot of paper. The state still communicates with paper. Our deliveries that come in have to be validated before we pay, make sure that we receive our goods. Linda handles that effortlessly. We also had a cutback a year and a half ago where Connie Schnorrs was pulled from our department because we had two. And Linda took over those duties without complaint. She's a marvelous lady. She's part of our Get It Done facilities team, and I can't say enough about her. Our second employee that I wanted to recognize tonight is Mr. Roberto Cruz. He's an employee that now has 13 years with the district, and we knew very early on that Roberto was going to be someone special. He took very minimal time. He started out on the second shift at the Violin High School South building, and he just, again, was a phenomenal employee, which shed light on him to be promoted to DePolito School, where he was the senior building maintenance worker for DePolito. And, if you've ever watched a mafia movie, there's always, the nicknames. Joey the Chin. I call Roberto the Bullet. He handles everything from soup to nuts. And once again, he was promoted to supervising building maintenance services, and he's located at Violin High School South. He returned home, and he is phenomenal. The South has struggled with our cutbacks, and so, those key elements in leadership, which is pride, ownership, and responsibility, Roberto holds all three of those as assets within his abilities. So I thank them both. And in closing, I just wanted to say that both Linda and Roberto are people that contribute and make Violin Public Schools great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farinaccio. And last, I'd like to call forward Mr. Michael Hall from Transportation.
Thank you, Dr. Gruccio, members of the board. I appreciate this opportunity to recognize 6 school bus drivers. Currently, there's a national school bus driver shortage that we're all experiencing. Reasons are requirement changes, testing changes, access to DMVs. So we're experiencing problems getting drivers just for those reasons. Currently, the district has 135 school bus drivers. We have 512 bus routes that we cover every day. with 20 different school schedules. So just covering that stuff is pretty excessive. We have roughly 19 to 20 drivers out per day. That would be leave of absence, vacation days, 6 times, and so forth. So basically, every bus route is 2. So if one driver's out, we're covering 2 routes, or 4 routes, I'm sorry. It would be 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So just based on that, the numbers that we have, and currently there are 8 substitute school bus drivers. So we don't have enough to cover those. So we use people who once their routes are done, they volunteer their time, they want to pick up additional routes, and those are the people we really count on. They're volunteers. I don't see them here tonight. We may have one. Okay, we have one here. Those drivers are Amy Solomon. Amy, can you stand up? Thank you. We have Neftali Lopez, Alicia Rodriguez, Marcela Vasquez, Giovanni Rivera Prats. Giovanni. And we have Paul Bentz. Is Paul here? Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you for what you do. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Guccio.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, and congratulations. Thank you for the job you do for us every day.
Okay, at this time, we will be retiring to executive session briefly, and we will be returning in a bit to resume our special presentations with the 2021-22 Vineland Public School budget.
Very nice. You get excited about that.
Inez. Jim. Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
see, I like to look at everybody.
Yeah.
And like,
No, I realize
I
that.
gotta turn my neck to see you told.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna turn
we can turn and see. It's fine.
I have it in front of me too.
I'm just waiting for my group. What else we have here? We got everybody?
Should be good to go.
Okay, we are back from executive session. Thank you for your patience. We will now move on to the next presentation. Dr. Gruccio, what is up, please?
Yes, we have our budget presentation by Mr. Mostrell.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Gruccio, members of the public. I'm here to present the 21-22 proposed school district budget. We're going to go over the budgeting process, some historical summaries, revenues, appropriations, the proposed tax levy, and some of the budget highlights. I want to start off with the process, which is basically two accountants I have, Dave Hart and Vicky Silva, meeting with the principals. I meet with supervisors and department heads. We develop a plan. We go over it with the administrative team. We present it to the committees of the board, and of course we have the board review process. So first thing we'll talk about is the enrollment. As you can see, it's been pretty flat the past 5 years. We did dip down a little bit in the 2021 budget year, but we're proposing that it's going to go up for the 21-22 enrollment year. The revenues, you'll see 21-22, that's budget, 2021 is budget, and 2019-20 is actual figures. So the tax levy is going up by a little over $1 million, and that's 4% tax increase. I'd like to speak on that just a little bit. The 4% equals just over $1 million now. However, given estimated tax or salary increases, pardon me, they could be anywhere from $2 to $3 million a year. So the problem we've always had in this district is that our tax increase does not cover our salary increases. So I'd like everybody to keep that in mind. We're using fund balance, which is extraordinarily high this coming year because of the 1920 budget, where COVID first hit and reduced a lot of our expenditures because we weren't here to utilize the funds. Our other general funds like tuitions and miscellaneous revenues, they're pretty stagnant, and Medicaid is about the same. So our total budget, revenue-wise, not counting special revenues, which is Fund 20, will be $180,420,638. This is just a picture by revenue, and of course the blue bar is our state aid, which is the majority of our revenues. The red bar being the tax levy, and the green bar being our use of fund balance. Appropriation trends, this is how we are spending our money. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but I'd like to point out that your regular educational programs is approaching $50 million budget-wise for 21-22. Special ed's $20 million. We are also putting in $2.8 million in our maintenance reserve for future years' projects. We've increased our capital outlay projects for next year to utilize some of that additional fund balance which we wanted to spend on one-year items. This is a picture of our appropriations. As you can see, the blue area is the largest picture, which is regular educational programs. The $40 million to the left of that is our benefits, which is a big number for this district. The next slide also shows a chart, just in a different way, and you can see that 21-22 year exceeds the past 2 years in virtually every different department. Let's talk a little bit about our taxes. I mentioned 4% tax increase. Our tax base is $3.8 million and change for 21-22, as supplied by the tax office for the city of Vineland. The average home assessment is $160,024. So 4% equals an annual cost to the average homeowner of $42.89, which if you take that over 12 years, it's just, 12 months, it's just over $3 a month, and we could break it down from there, but that's basically the idea with the $42.89. State computations. So according to the state, there's a local fair share, and they have a formula for that. They're telling us that Vineland should be $63,028,930. As I've mentioned already, and you can see here, the proposed tax levy for the next fiscal year is $26,719,372. We are below the state's requirement by $36 million and change. What does that mean? That means according to the state's formula, Vineland is undertaxed by $36.3 million. It's just something noteworthy that we should mention. Some of the budget highlights, operations. We are revamping the social studies curriculum. We're adding $1 million for new textbooks, workbooks, manipulatives, professional development. As I mentioned also, the maintenance reserve, we're putting in $2.8 million for future years. Transportation fleet investment, $458,000. We're buying 28 new buses. And as you'll see in later slides, we'll also be getting rid of some buses so we can maintain the optimal fleet. Facility investments, we're doing $3.5 million in facility projects, capital projects. I'll mention that later. Security fleet investments, we're budgeting 3 new security vehicles for next year. And district communications, we're looking to put another $30,000 into that department as well. Some of the vehicle highlights. We have 292 total vehicles, consists of 177 buses, 97 active other vehicles, meaning maintenance, security, etc. We plan on acquiring 28 buses next year, as I've said, through lease purchases, and then we'll be disposing of 36 buses as well. The 4 vehicles that we're acquiring are security and a mail van. For the facility projects that we're doing, $3.5 million. To Palo Alto, we're going to renovate the bathrooms. We're going to do a full roof replacement at Palo Alto. The chiller area in the Vineland High School North will need new doors, asphalt, parking area, as well as the chiller replacement needs to be done. Vineland High School North is also getting a front facade, as it's a safety hazard as of right now. We're working on it. Vineland High School South is getting an agricultural classroom off of V-Wing, as well as a greenhouse construction for their agricultural program. Winslow is doing a partial roof replacement. As far as the program and curriculum noteworthy items, critical curricular resources and student options through the following activities: K-12 social studies program, revision, professional development, and resources. We've talked about that. That was the $1 million. Continued focus on guided reading and process writing. Summer 1, Year 1 math and language arts focus COVID remediation. Expand linked data to drive instruction and instructional decisions through state data collection. Revise K-5 schedules and science curriculum to reflect current state and national trends as demonstrated by NGSLA Grade 5. We're doing continued focus on improving mathematics, language arts, and science instruction in preparation for the NJSLA. Focus on career and technical pathways for construction and agricultural. Expand college articulation scope and sequence for progression of student abilities through K-12 for multiple pathways. And finally, the continued inclusion of health literacy and mental health into the district and school-based professional development opportunities. Thank you. That's the budget presentation, and if the board has any questions, I'll gladly entertain them.
Any questions by any board members? You're off the hook, Mr. Mustarelli.
Thank you.
And thank you to you and your staff as well, Mr. Mustarelli, because again, I know it's not just a 2-week process. Dr. Gooch, do we have any other special presentations this evening?
No, that concludes our presentations.
All right, do I have any questions or comments on our HIB report this evening? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion for the approval of minutes? February 3rd, 2021 executive session, March 10th, 2021 combined meeting, March 10th, 2021 executive session, March 16th, 2021 special budget meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Get that, Mr. Berman? First motion was by Ms. Cadaspati? Second one by? Mr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes. Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Cadaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
And Mr. English?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. At this time, do we have any committee reports by board members this evening? Ms. Spinelli.
The Personnel and Policy Committee met on March 31st. In attendance was Kim Cadaspati, Scott English, Nick Fiocchi, Dr. Gruccio, Dr. Rossi, Dr. Sneathen, and myself. We discussed person items. We're going to have an increase in our substitute teachers. We're going to adjust the salaries of some clerical staff. We are going to be hiring a new middle school math teacher. We also discussed return in-person instruction update, and we also discussed some new bylaws, the restart and the recovery plan, and updating the school uniforms. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Do we have any other committee? Mr. Holmes.
Transportation met Thursday, April 1st at 9 a.m. Present were Mr. Mustarell, Ms. Ferrari, Dr. Rossi, Mr. Rivera, Dr. Sneathen, Scott English, Mr. Berman, and myself. We talked about new routing software upgrades, new training, revamping and renovating the Testa building, which is their break room. We talked about evacuations, the Cumberland County Consortium, the return to school, and roles for the supervisors for the department. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes, and I would just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Hall for the consortium lesson. It is a lot to understand and take, and I do appreciate your time putting that package together for us. Our committee reports this evening. Okay, seeing none, before we do go any further, I spoke to Dr. Gucci a little earlier today. The board has been getting some emails, several emails and questions throughout the public concerning, how we decide to reopen school, how we decide to close school, what are we doing, what aren't we doing. And the district does have, it's a superintendent-based committee called the Reopening Committee. So I'm just going to ask Dr. Gruccio just to kind of give the, brief synopsis of where we are currently, because again, it's real easy for us to receive the emails and everyone has all the solutions, but until you understand really what happens, it's a lot more than just saying, oh, we're going, or no, we're not going back to school 4 days a week, 5 days a week, etc. So Dr. Gruccio, if you can just kind of give a brief synopsis on where we're at, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, any decisions that are made, we come up with those decisions based on a lot of input. We meet continually with all the superintendents in the county. We meet with the county superintendent. We meet with the Vineland Health Department, and we meet with our county health department before we make any of these decisions. Our original plan, first of all, I want to thank the committee because they've been involved for a year now and they've been very gracious. I email them every time something is changing. I ask for their input and I thank them for giving their time. I also need to thank our parents because this has been very difficult for them and we understand that. Every time something changes, it's another time that they have to worry about child care and how they're going to have somebody working with their child and so on and so forth. So I thank everybody for their patience through this process. I want them to know none of these decisions are made lightly. We have a lot of discussion before any of these decisions are made. We met with all of the county superintendents and the health department and we came up with the date of April 19th for us to return 4 days a week. Wednesday would be a virtual day for our students and staff so that we could have an extensive cleaning in every school. The reason we are continuing with half days, I'm trying not to leave anything out, is that the health department has asked us over and over again to please consider not going back full time because they feel the majority of the cases that we're experiencing are coming from students eating together at lunchtime. It's very difficult within the amount of students we have in each school to separate children by 3 to 6 feet and all try to eat at the same time. We have cases where we have 100 to 250 kids eating in a lunch period. So they have asked us over and over to please continue with a half-day schedule, and that's what we have done. The health department has been right on point with everything they have told us. Every time we get their input and we make a decision, we find that they've been right on target with what has been shared with us. So after we made the decision to go back on April 19th, I met with the other superintendents, and most of them will all be back by the 19th. However, we're in constant communication with our health department and with the mayor as well. The mayor suggested with a fourth wave on its way and having a lot of people travel over spring break, he strongly suggested that we consider the date of May 3rd to return. That was rather difficult for me because all the other schools were returning by April 19th, yet I'm concerned for the safety of our staff and students. So we then spoke with our board president, vice president, the mayor, the health department. I called the county health department, and I called the other superintendents. So after extensive discussions, we decided that we would meet in the middle, and we would extend 1 more week of virtual, and our students would return in person on April 26th instead of April 19th. This board, and me as well, want nothing more than have our students back. I have a little grandchild in school. They want nothing more than to be with their teacher, their friends, be in school. This is difficult for the students, for the parents. It's just a tough situation, and we know that. And we want nothing more than to have them back. However, I'm responsible for 10,600 students and over 2,000 employees. And when I make those decisions, I don't make them lightly, because I feel responsible for the health and well-being of every one of those people. So as much as I wanted to go back on the 19th, after much discussion, we felt that it would be appropriate if we met in the middle halfway and we returned on April 26th. So again, that's where we are right now. I have every intention of opening on April 26th. We did not get the information way ahead of time, so it was right before break when I notified people. I apologize for the inconvenience, but again, I need to do what I believe is right, and following the health department has worked out very well for us over the past year. So I continue. They wrote me a letter. They asked me to consider extending beyond April 19th. And I value their input. So that's where we are. I notified the committee. Again, I thank them for their time and their input. And that brings us up to now.
Thank you, Dr. Gucci. Do any board members have any questions or comments? I don't know if you're getting the same type of emails that Ms. Spinelli and myself get, but realistically, what happens, again, we try and stay in constant communication, and for some reason, the public thinks that the board president, the board vice president can direct the superintendent. Hey, if we all want to be back 5 days a week, eating lunch, and the normalcy that every student deserves. But realistically, the surveys and everything that go out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Guccio, it's just like America. Everything's 50-50. You know, 50% want this, 50% want that. So we're dealing with the negative emails, and every now and then there's a positive one. But, you know, we sit in these seats, but we're continually battling with the negativity piece of it, and as Dr. Gruccio said, it comes down to the safety and security of our staff and students. And it's crazy because until it hits home and it's your student or your husband or wife that might be in that classroom, nobody really thinks that part until then, and then they become the Monday morning quarterback. I just have a couple questions, Dr. Guccio, and you don't have to answer them this evening, but just some things that have come across my desk. You know, what will school look back like on the 26th? Will there be shields at desks? Is everyone required to wear a mask? Can a teacher just wear a shield with no mask? Things like that. Are we sending anything home to the parents so they know exactly what the classroom looks like on the 26th of April versus what it looked like last year?
I believe in my letter I mentioned that all PPE was in place, PPE, excuse me, and we have gone above and beyond to provide everything possible. We have desk shields on the desk for each student. Students are required to wear a mask. We're doing our very best to make sure students are 3 feet apart. We have ordered an ionizer for every room in the district, which is supposedly there to kill COVID. And we provided masks for staff and students. We have shields for anybody who has to change classes so that they don't have to use the same shield on the desk. And we do an extensive cleaning every Wednesday, plus cleaning every day, which includes doorknobs and things like that. So I can't think of anything that we have not put in place, you know, to make sure that we're covering all of our bases.
And I guess the public tends to look what other districts are doing and always like to do the comparison piece. And yes, and correct me again if I'm wrong, yes, the superintendent can go his or her own path and decide to do something different than the local health department says, you know, because some people say, well, Bridgeton's doing this, Ocean City's doing that, Millville's doing that. But again, it's the size of our numbers, and then people will come back with, well, okay, look at Cherry Hill. It's just really district by district, and to be honest with you, I don't care what other districts are doing. I really just care about the safety of Vineland. But it's so important because we share the frustration of the parent, and we feel for the student. Tonight we had that presentation, which hey, virtual is not the ideal thing, but it is better than nothing. And it just bothers me when people take aim at my fellow board members, central administration, because again, Dr. Gruccio heard us loud and clear in June and July that we want to be back 5 days a week, eating lunch and doing everything normal. And she says, do you think I don't want to as well? But the safety piece. And again, like I said earlier, not to beat the dead horse, but everything's fine and dandy until it hits your own home, and then the game changes. And when that changes, everybody forgets the email they might have sent and everything. So I just hope that kind of is a better understanding of how it is, because again, when I get bumped into at the supermarket, you need to direct the superintendent. That's not how it works, correct, Mr. DeSanto? This is a day-to-day operational piece. People say, well, you're there to provide oversight. Yes, we understand the oversight piece, but, you know, it's just a slippery slope, and we're navigating through times that it is different every single day. You know, we could talk staffing issues, but that's a very tough area, because for every one person that says, get me back to school yesterday, somebody says, I'd rather be home. I understand. You know, I think the last question I have for you, Dr. Gruccio, this might be a tough question to ask because I mentioned the word staffing issues. What is really considered an excusable absence? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, that would be more of a Dr. Rossi question. I can tell you this. He has been dealing with this for 1 year now. It never stops. He takes the time to review every situation individually, and he requests doctor notes, so on and so forth, and makes the decisions based on what's best for our students and what he feels is best for our employees as well. I can let him address that. And just one other thing that I wanted to add, with the money we received, I want people to know also, we are working very hard to put together a very sound summer school program from K through 12 in the district as well, so that we can help these students catch up. We know that this has not been ideal, but we are doing everything in our power to make sure we can provide every opportunity for them to be ready to hit the road running, hopefully, in September. I hope that we see things the way they used to be. So that's my hope, but I can't speak for the governor or what's going to happen, but that's what we're hoping for. So, Dr. Rossi, if you would like to just expand upon that for a look.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio. The overwhelming, and I mean overwhelming number of our employees are very dedicated and do everything they can for our students. There are cases that consistency is challenged because 2,000 people have personal lives. There are many employees with children who are not returning who attend other districts. There are employees caring for the elderly. There are pregnant employees or people who have given birth very recently. There are cancer patients. There are many issues that we're confronting. We're asking the doctors of the people who do request accommodation to simply address the employee's status with the vaccine, not demanding they've had the vaccine, asking for the doctor to address how the vaccine might or might not impact that person's return. And we've been going back and forth with communication. As I said, there's not a distrust here. There is simply a request to validate that we can provide professionals for these students when they return to the buildings. We all know that is the best form of education, and we all believe, at least I do, that inferior education, despite our best efforts, has occurred since March 2020. So we are working steadily, I am working steadily with many fine employees, trying to be consistent with how we approach this. I work with the principals. As you know, Dr. Gruccio, April 26th, we are asking for online instruction to be done in the classroom. And that is a great difference from what folks have been accustomed to since March 2020. So it is a challenge. We are working through it. There are a handful of situations that have been approved, pending the principal's assignment of online teaching to remain remote from the building. There's just a handful of those right now. We are continuing dialogue with many individuals, trying to be fair, but I also fear that there is a bit of a comfort with what's been going on. It's human nature, I think, for the past year to be settled in to a lifestyle. And we're trying to say now it's time to come back. So it's progressing.
Thank you, Dr. Rossi. Also, one other thing, getting the vaccine is a very personal decision, but I want everybody to know that the health department has worked very closely with us, Complete Care has worked with us, and every employee in the district has been offered an opportunity to receive the vaccine if they wish to have it. So I just want you to know that we have done that as well.
And Dr. Gruccio, the actual mask needs to be worn by everyone. If someone can come back and teach but cannot wear the mask for breathing purposes, we need teachers in the classroom. Is a shield satisfactory or not satisfactory?
What I have been told by the health department is if you wear a shield, you must also wear a mask.
And we are going to comply with that. Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we're having the teachers that are teaching remotely come in the building to teach the kids with their mask on?
Yes, they will be teaching from their classroom remotely for the students that still remain virtual.
So when they're home, they can teach without their mask. But when they come to school, they have to wear their mask to teach.
I apologize, I didn't
I
hear
said when
that.
they're home, as a teacher, I can teach with my mask off.
Oh, of course,
But
it's
when I'm in
virtual, they have
school, I'm
nobody
gonna-
else there with them.
But I'm going to deliver the instruction with my mask on in the classroom to students that are home. Is it more beneficial to teach without the mask on while you're home to deliver the instruction?
If you're virtual and you are in your own classroom with no one else or at home, I don't see any reason why you would have to wear a mask. However, if you're in a classroom with other students, we are being asked to wear a mask. Did that answer your question?
It did, but I thought that we have to wear a mask at all times while we're in the building. That's just a concern I just have.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments for Dr. Gruccio? Dr. Gruccio, thank you for that. I know you get the same emails I get, so at that point, it's just very frustrating because everyone thinks they have the answers, and trust me, it's not that easy. And
no
thank you
problem.
for your
Thank
time
you.
with that. All righty, moving on. At this time, and thanks board members for the committee reports as well. At this time, do we have any public comments by our board solicitor this evening?
Just very briefly, the matter that was discussed in the executive session, I just wanted to make sure it was clear that we have 30 days in which to communicate a response, and that response will be prepared by Dr. Rossi and Labor Council, and we should publicly approve the decision at our May 5 meeting. So we're not quite done the process yet.
Okay, thank you, and duly noted.
Mr. DeSanto, you'll provide the wording that you want for that on the May agenda.
So get her done, buddy. We're waiting on you. We're waiting on you then, right? That's it. All right. At this time, do we have any public comment on agenda items or any other matter? If you do, please limit your comments to 5 minutes. I see that you have a handful there, Mr. Berman. So basically what we do, the format is, I can call them. Yes, I can call each one, absolutely. Our first speaker this evening, Christy DiLeonardo. Excuse me one second. Moving forward, we'll have to check that, but when I read it on the agenda, it currently says 5 minutes. I know we did 3 minutes for the online component, but I'm not aware that to online, did we change to 3 minutes? It still states 5, so we will definitely, I know we had discussion on that, but I don't think we got it to the next level for a second reading. Thank you, and I apologize, Ms. DiLeonardo, please.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Gruccio, Board President, and the rest of the board. My name is Christy DiLeonardo. I am a resident here in Vineland. I work for the County of Cumberland, and I have a daughter that is at the Pilla Middle School in 7th grade. And I want to thank you, Dr. Gruccio, for your announcements tonight. It was, frankly, a big relief for some of the things that I heard, and I was not one of the people that emailed any of you up there or any of you down here. So if it's okay, I would like, because I know I only have 5 minutes, and I really think there's a few things that are very important that I'd like to get to. First of all, I have to publicly thank a few people. So Dr. Gruccio, back in 2020, in August, there was a small little elite swim team that submitted a plan to yourself and some of the board members for us to be able to have our kids swim competitively. And it's a very competitive group. And if it wasn't for you, and if it wasn't for Jean Merkley, we would not have been able to utilize your pool. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and mentally it has done wonders for our kids, so thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on, is there are other people that I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you. And it was fantastic to hear, I think her name is Roxy, the teacher. That was awesome, awesome, and more awesome, so I was happy to hear all the fantastic things you're doing. So my daughter has an IEP, and there are a few teachers that I have to thank. Also, Mr. Nate Fry is here. I have to thank him for taking my calls just for questions, and it was terrific that he was able to answer everything for me. So I have to thank, because there are fabulous teachers here in Vineland. Miss Carol Farinaccio, Miss Mona Morrow, Miss Barbara Dean, Miss Jenny Denny, and who would not want to have a teacher? Miss Jenny Denny. Pamela English, Amanda Guaracini, and of course Principal Mr. Bermudez. They have stepped up. They were fantastic. My daughter has had a tremendous year as opposed to what the end of last year was. So I want to thank these teachers and administrators for doing such an outstanding job. So thank you. So moving on, you know, I have to say I thought I was being bamboozled on April 1st. Somebody called me and said on Facebook there is a letter from Dr. Gruccio that said that our kids were not going back to school on the 19th. I really thought they were pulling my leg because it was April Fool's. So I went on Facebook and I saw the letter, and one, I have to say I was in shock just because that's how it was delivered to me. And I'm not on Facebook that much. I am, but I'm not on that much on the Vineland site. So in the future, I would like to encourage the superintendent and the soon-to-be whoever the new superintendent will be, if we could have some information that would either go through the Genesis portal or, because one item did when we were returning on the 19th, but to have that on Facebook, I have to say I was a little surprised. Also, it was mentioned tonight, it was the health department, the mayor, and the board president and the vice president, and of course Dr. Gruccio signed the letter. And it did state in that letter that Vineland is back in high risk. So I completely understand where the alarm came from. But what I also have to add is that the data is the data, and the data hasn't changed. So from the Vineland Health Department to the New Jersey Health Department to the County Health Department, there is an activity level report that does come out. And that activity report level, while our kids were hybrid and while our kids were remote, it was moderate and it was also high, but our kids were still remote. So I noticed that it did say high, so I went and checked. Yes, we are in high. We're not in high, but we're in high. So our kids were finally in remote still, as well as hybrid. I guess my concern is the additional time off from the 19th. The time for that letter that came out was, it was interesting to me just because when I looked at the data, and I know the Vineland Health Department, I know the people that work there, they do an outstanding job, but the data is the data. So why, I guess my question, and you know, obviously we're not going to have an answer tonight.
5 minutes.
Okay. Can I finish my comment? Thank you. All I would ask is that somebody send me an email. All I want to know is why, at least for the third week that our kids are out, why aren't we hybrid? Once again, we've been hybrid during a high status. why is that third week so critical for our kids to be home for that third week? Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, Ms. DeLeonardo, we cannot exchange in dialogue, so you will receive a response accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joya Tucker.
Good evening, board members and everyone present here tonight. My name is Joya Tucker, and I am here with my husband and my son. We're both immigrants from West Africa, Sierra Leone, 30+ years ago. And I had a bachelor degree in nursing. My husband is a veteran for 25+ years, and my son and his master's in administration, business administration as well. We both believe in, or all of us believe in, the American dream. And because of that, that's why we do what we do today. That is the reason we're here. We want to give back to the United States because it has been good to us as well. Currently, we have our family business where we operate an allied school, and we serve the public. We train certified caregivers in basic caregiving skills, such as certified nurse aide, home health aides, phlebotomist. We also train EKG technician, medical assistant, and basic life support. We have graduated over 3,000 students that have successfully finished their program and have jobs in communities and other places. And we are here in Vineland. We have been here for the last 6+ years, and we continue to do what we do best. These aides or caregivers that we trained out, they have jobs in places like hospitals. They have places like labs, nursing facilities, client homes. They go to client homes and take care of clients as well. And they also have been going above and beyond in coming to school to finish some of these programs during these pandemic years, and we tried not to interrupt any of our programs. We did some hybrid, some virtual, and also in classes. And we have these students up and running. We are proud to say we have done well during this pandemic time. That's the reason we want to continue to do what we're doing best. We currently identify that the community need an habilitation center where we can focus more for like the developmental challenge population, where we can keep them active and interactive with each other, and especially with the adult ones as well. So we are looking into getting a building where we will be able to train and also work with this population. It's what we do best, and it's what we know how to do best. And that's how we discover Oak and Main, a building that we already looked 3 times. We have done a walkthrough. Yes, it's a lot of work, but we know it's in the right location, the right town, and we know it's the best building for what we're looking for the population and for the community. We just want to ask, you know, the township, the community, the board members, as to how they can help us acquire this building and let all of us work together into this mission. We have a great mission and vision statement. It's a non-profit organization, and I can give more information if the board need to know more about what we do. So I once again want to thank everyone here tonight for listening, and thank you also for sharing this beautiful country with us. Thank you.
You have 5 minutes.
What?
Thank you.
Oh, I don't you? Okay.
No, thank you very much, Ms. Tucker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Enough.
Next, we have Denise Monero.
Hi, good evening. My name is Denise Monero. I have 2 children in Vineland Public Schools. They're at the middle
Excuse
school.
me, Denise, can you just get a little closer to the mic, please?
Sure,
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm also a teacher in Millville, working 4 days a week, full-time, preschool. I'm here tonight to ask the administration to please get our children back in school, and I'm glad to hear that we are going back to full-time as possible. Our children are not thriving in this virtual or hybrid environment. My kids have been in school 25 half-days in Cohort B. And when they do attend school in person, most of their teachers still have them participate in Google meetings at their desk. This makes no sense to me, to go bring their laptop to school and have a Google Meet at their desk. My kids need to be in school as all of the kids in Vineland need to be in school. Not everyone can afford to send their kids to a private school or Catholic school. If the Catholic and private schools in our area can figure it out, and the neighboring public districts can figure it out, why can't we? I teach preschool. I'm there full-time. We feed the kids 3 times a day in my classroom with no mask, and we have rest time with no mask, and it hasn't been an issue. We need to get our kids back in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monero. Sophia Nooks.
I'm Sophia Nooks. I'm not going to stand close to the mic because no one sprayed it or anything, so I hope you can hear me from where I am. My question is, I have the same question as most of the parents. CC Tech is also a public school. They went back on when they were supposed to go back on the time they were. What is the difference with the Violin schools? Isn't CC Tech a Violin school also? They're back 4 days a week, so why aren't we? Okay, all right. That's one of my questions. Thank you. That's one of my questions. Another question also, summer program, you did touch on that a little bit. I called the schools as I was told to call the principal about, you know, the kids getting in for the summer program. I was told by Violin High School the kids have to be failing in order to get into the summer program. Because the kids are not technically failing grades, that doesn't mean that they're not failing. My daughter's first year in high school, She says to me, "Mommy, I don't feel like I learned anything." That is heartbreaking as a parent. We do our best. I also work in a mental institution. I have to be at work, and I have to parent 5 children in this Violin district. I understand your troubles. I commend you teachers and everything that you're doing, but it has hit my home. I work in a facility where I had COVID. My son, 18 years old, got COVID from work, not from school, not from me bringing it home, months later from a restaurant that people are now sitting in. Why are they open? The mayor wants to say, keep the school closed. Fine, but why are the restaurants open? Why are they allowed to go in there and eat if you're so worried about COVID? So you guys will get back to me, but this is the struggles that we have as parents. My husband and I, we both work full-time. We're not trying to throw things on you. We understand that it's hard for you guys too. We get it. But as a parent, with a kindergarten to a 12th grade, 5 kids, it's a struggle to see your kids not learning. So we have to come up with something. We have to do something to get these kids educated. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Snooks, if you can leave an email or something, address so Dr. Gruccio can get back to you. Is it on the paper? Thank you. That's it for the yellow sheets, but I always give a courtesy to anyone that would like to address the board at this time. Please, Mr. Martine, you know the drill. I don't have to give it to you, buddy.
Good evening, Dr. Gruccio and members of the board. Not too long ago, I guess long ago comparatively though, I spoke at a board meeting to discuss an experience I had while substitute teaching. I was working with a general education student in 5th grade who did not know how to perform basic mathematical operations or how to skip count by 5. Short of a special education referral, there were very few options on the table for this student. Do you keep the student in the setting they're in where they're currently struggling, or do you place them in an unnecessarily restrictive environment where she'll receive the support, but at the expense to the general education curriculum? I like to think about this situation figuratively. It's like sending a student out to recess on a brisk 55-degree day, but the student's only 2 options are no jacket at all or a head-to-toe parka. Neither option is adequate or appropriate for the student. A greater investment in a middle option is needed, something that is not as restrictive as a special education placement, our metaphorical parka, but not as lenient as having 0 interventions aside from the general education teacher, our metaphorical no jacket. What our students need is a nice sweater, an option that can support students in their general education setting, alleviate stress from teachers, and provide just the right amount of academic and social support so that our students can excel. What I'm talking about is called a multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, and a response to intervention, or RTI. MTSS is focused on academic supports and operates based on 3 tiers. First, extra time with a basic skills teacher or dedicated staff member. Second, a smaller group setting and even greater one-on-one time with basic skills teachers. And finally, an even smaller setting with even more time with a basic skills teacher. If no progress is made after 24 weeks of tiered interventions, the student is referred for special education on the basis that there is no response to intervention. The benefits of this are twofold. First, instead of going right from general education setting to a special education referral, the classroom teacher would have more time and access to intervene earlier and more effectively. And secondly, this model is much more accurate at identifying students in need of a special education referral than the commonly used discrepancy model. Instead, we can use data to inform our choices. There may be many reasons why students are not responsive to intervention or instruction, and only a small number of them are disability related. This supports more accurate and appropriate identification of students for special education, ultimately translates to saving big bucks for special ed. Vineland used to do this. We had Read 180 teachers and basic skills teachers dedicated to narrowing the gap and getting our students close to grade level. But I've seen no mention of putting basic skills teachers back in our schools after they were taken out in 2019. Yes, implementing MTSS can be expensive at first, given all the professional learning that has to take place. But in the long run, it can be less expensive to our public school system and, of course, greatly benefit the student. You might be wondering, what do we have now? Well, that's a great question. On the Vineland Public Schools Curriculum Department website, there's a page entitled MTSS Student Support Protocol. The website directs you to a Google Doc that is frankly very confusing. There's a lot of flow charts and hyperlinks, but not a lot in terms of specific actionable guidance for general educators to use. We need to look at what's actually being done in practice versus what's just checking boxes so we're in compliance with state standards. We require an MTSS program in our district that includes RTI. Resources must be allocated to hiring more basic skills staff and investing in more uniformly applied resources for our teachers. Because of the pandemic, that is incredibly important. Our students are overcoming challenges never before seen. We can't just keep referring students for special education for challenges that can definitely be remediated in the general education setting. The Atlanta Independent School System learned this firsthand when a district court found in favor of one of their students who was denied a free and appropriate public education in Draper v. Atlanta. The school district was ultimately found responsible for thousands of dollars in punitive charges, a situation that could have been avoided had the district provided the requisite student support. The IDEA ensures that all students are entitled to a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. That means that if our students are in need of academic support, they should receive that academic support. But it also means that they should not be unnecessarily precluded from the general education classes. I'm asking the board and central administration to take a look at what is being done for our students who are just getting by. Look for the students who have been invisible for far too long. The student who is easygoing but secretly struggles for hours on their homework. The student who has lots of friends and excels on the social scene but consistently fails test after test. In these situations, we must ask ourselves, is it really the student who is failing? I'm reminded of a saying I heard in my graduate school courses. Teachers who fail students are teachers who fail students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martine. Do we have anyone else who would like to address the board this evening?
I would like to recommend discussion of personnel items. 1.1, retirements, resignations, termination, leaves of absence, employment transfers, student substitutes, and extracurricular activities.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the daily pay rates, which would be effective April 26, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. Substitute long-term teacher from 150 to 200, building permanent sub-teacher from 150 to 200, daily substitute teacher from 125 to 175, substitute long-term or daily paraprofessional for self-contained one-to-one from 100 to 125, and daily paraprofessional for self-contained or one-to-one from 90 to 125, daily instructional paraprofessional from 90 to 100.
Do you have any questions or comments? Just a quick comment, Dr. Gruccio, just for the record, I do want to stress that it is through June 30th, 2021.
Correct.
And again, thanks for bringing this to our attention.
We're just trying to be competitive because it's very difficult to get substitutes, so this will get us through the end of the school year. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I would like to recommend approval of personnel items 1.1 through 1.2.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Kataspati?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding that the board waive the time requirements for...
I gotta get a roll call.
Oh, I
I'm
apologize.
sorry, that's okay.
It's been a long night.
That's
My
okay.
mind's
That's
not,
okay.
I'm not working.
That's
It's
okay.
not working.
That's okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Berman.
Thank you. Ms. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Kataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabria?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Silva? Did I miss him? No. Ms. Spinelli? And Mr. English?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to recommend discussion regarding the board waive time requirements for review according to policy 0131, bylaws and policies, and adopt the following policy and bylaw 0164, conduct of board meetings, which eliminates the ability for the public to add to the agenda. and Regulation 1648, the Restart and Recovery Plan, which eliminates a specific number of quarantine days, and that's because it keeps changing.
Questions or comments? No.
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the second reading of the following policies, regulations for discussion for mandated changes. And there is an entire list here. They were read at the last board meeting, so they are all here. And if anybody has any questions regarding any of them, I'd be happy to answer them. I would like to recommend discussion regarding the first reading of the following policies and regulations for discussion. 5511.2, mandating school uniforms. The revision is the word leggings in our policy.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the bus evacuation drills completed in March and April as per the list provided and on file with the board secretary and in accordance with the New Jersey Administrative Code 6A:27-11.2.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the VPS draft calendar for 21-22 as provided and on file with the secretary of the board.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the summer program of 2021 preschool through grade 12 as on the list provided and on file with the board secretary.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the submission of 6 capital improvement projects for the Vineland Public Schools for both schematic and final approval. Oh, no, did I go? I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Okay, so I would like to recommend approval of items 2.1 through 2.6.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Kataspati and Holmes.
Who's the first? Kataspati, and then Holmes. Okay.
Roll call, please. Mr. Berman.
Ms. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Kataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Finucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Spinelli? And Mr. English?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're under Buildings and Grounds. I apologize. I would like to recommend discussion regarding the submission of the 6 capital improvement projects for Vineland Public Schools, both schematic and final approval, and for an amendment to the district's long-range facilities plan to include these projects. The projects are the North Building Chiller, the South Agriculture alterations, the Palato roof, windows and toilet rooms, Barcy windows, Rossi windows, and Winslow roof.
Do I have any questions or comments by the board? No.
I would like to recommend approval of item 3.1.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Same people.
Okay.
We got a system now. Don't mess with us, Mr. Berman. Roll call, please, Mr. Berman.
Hopefully in the same order. Thank you very much. Ms. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Kataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Finucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Spinelli? And Mr. English?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to recommend discussion of budgetary transfers for the general school-based and ECPA budgets for the month of February 2021.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion of the board secretary and treasurer reports for February 2021.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the placement of special education students.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the service agreement between the City of Vineland Board of Education and Comcast Cable Communications Management, LLC, to provide communications and other services at $8,972.60 per month through the E-rate program for a 3-year term from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the memorandum of understanding between the JAG program and the Vineland Public Schools for a 3-year period, July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the sale of a vehicle list, which is on file with the board secretary, which will be auctioned on GovDeals.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the awarding of the following contract for architect of record for the term July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. 18A-18A-5 professional services shall be awarded for a period not to exceed 12 consecutive months. Architect of record would be Manders, Marigi, Porter & Farrell Architects, LLC.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Ed and Egg Harbor Township Board of Ed for one student in the estimated total amount of $10,807.70 for November 30th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Education and Egg Harbor Township Board of Education for one student in the estimated total of $10,807.70 for November 30th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the 2021 Joint Transportation Agreement between Winslow Township Board of Ed and the City of Vineland Board of Education in the amount of $1.93 per student per day.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the Salem County Vocational School District and the City of Vineland Board of Education for the 21-22 school year for the following amounts. Full-time, 14 students, $6,277 per pupil per year.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the following Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives: bids, quoted contracts, addenda, joint agreement, and GCSSSD participation agreement.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of items 4.1 through 4.12.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Right, same thing, Cottis-Body and Holmes.
Roll call, please, Mr. Byrne.
Yes.
Mrs. Cottis-Spotty?
Yes.
Mr. Finucci?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrino?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Benelli? And Mr. English?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes my recommendations.
I bet you're glad my last name's English, huh? Okay. All right, Dr. Guccio, thank you. At this time, number 10, we have a 10B item proposed for review or discussion or adoption by board members. It is a discussion and possible action of approving the conveyance of the Oak and Main property to the Vineland Community Foundation, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, for nominal consideration. Do I have any questions or comments? Mr.
Yes. If I may, Mr. English. I handed out tonight the latest version of the resolution that I understand the board is going to consider. This resolution represents part 2 of the proposal made by Mr. Silva at the meeting last month to convey the property to the foundation. This version slightly differs from the one that was linked to your agenda, and I just wanted to highlight that so the board completely understands. Paragraph 1A, the only change is the word substantially, so that it reads, the buildings and grounds improvements represented by the foundation to be completed must be substantially completed and the premises ready for occupancy within 18 months of the date of the deed from the board to the foundation. I had provided what we call a courtesy copy of the resolution to Jeff Medio, who represents the foundation, and Jeff contacted me and said the only concern that the foundation board members had was supposing the building was 98% complete and what was left was punch list. And he and I discussed it, and I mentioned to him that, you know, we can certainly put a word in here called substantially complete, which basically means that it's almost there. If you want a percentage, 98%, and there just remains some punch list items. So I inserted the word substantially completed to accommodate that request, and that was the only change. The second change, and it wasn't requested, but by change I mean from the resolution that was linked, is paragraph 7 says, "The conveyance authorized by this resolution is expressly contingent upon the written approval and acceptance by the Board of Trustees of the Violin Community Foundation of all of the terms, conditions, and requirements set forth herein." It was my advice to the board that it was a courtesy to the foundation to make sure they understood the various requirements, conditions, and terms the board was imposing on this, and that it would be appropriate for you to know first that they're acceptable, because if not, then you don't pass the resolution. And Mr. Medio certified, and that certification is the second change to what was in your packet. I certify that the terms, conditions, and requirements set forth in this resolution have been approved and accepted by the Board of Trustees of the Violin Community Foundation. It's signed Jeffrey Medio, attorney for Violin Community Foundation. I'm satisfied that that appropriately meets the requirement of paragraph 7 that I just quoted. So basically what you have before you is a slightly revised and hopefully final version of the resolution. And that would be the resolution you would entertain. You would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
Mr. President?
Seeing none, do I have a motion for this resolution this evening?
I would like to make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Silva.
Mr. Silva made the motion, seconded by Ms. Cadaspati. With a roll call, please. Mr. Berman.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cadaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiucci?
Abstain?
Mr. Holmes?
No.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli? No. Mr. English?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. President, motion passes with a vote of 6 yeses, 1 abstention, and 2 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. At this time, do I have a motion for the approval of bills that incurred during the month of February 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cadaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Finucci? Yes. Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrina?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Spinelli? Yes. And Mr. English?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. We have no emergent items with prior approval this evening. At this time, do I have any board members with any old/new business? Seeing none, I just have, with Mr. Martine making a move to the podium this evening. The board used to get, Dr. Gruccio, the board used to get an update monthly, quarterly from the president at the Vineland High School. I know we've had the COVID thing, but I would like to try and, I don't know what happened to that, if that's something that stopped when I had left the board, but it was very informative to get the pros and cons, the hots, the nots of what's going on at the Vineland High School. and it was also a way to let the public know what's happening. So I understand with the COVID and the season, but maybe if we can get that to rekindle.
Do you want the president of the senior class or the president of the Student Government Association?
I believe it was the president of the senior class, if I'm correct, yes. So,
You sure? Okay.
yes.
All right.
Mr. Martino, am I correct in that? Yes, thank you. Just to see if that's something that they would still entertain, because it was very informative for the board members. It kind of gave us a little update of what's happening. So that, and then pretty much some new business. We, as board members, we have received, started receiving the end of the year type emails concerning graduations, moving up ceremonies, proms, end of the year field trips, end of the year activities with the field, outdoor field stuff. I know, again, this is day-to-day operation, but they seem to be coming to the board members. We had Ms. Spinelli drew it to my attention earlier today, and then I went online, and as I looked, I had received 5 new emails. I guess we need to ask you to let the parents know to be patient, but I know it's a tough thing. Where are we with those kind of things, Dr. Guccio? Is it each individual school? Are we going to have a consistent thing for middle school, 8th grades? What is it? What are we looking at?
I'm meeting this next week with the middle school principals. We are going to try to be consistent. I just need parents to understand that unless the governor changes the guidelines we've been given, we're under a number cap, whether it's outside or inside, and we are going to discuss various options and try to come to a consensus. And once that happens, the principals will be notifying the parents.
Thank you. And I do want you to know that I'm speaking for myself as board president. You have our support. We want to do what is the best for our students, but still we're taking into consideration the safety. Some of these parents have some great ideas, and I know you're in constant conversation with the health department, but we do happen to have a beautiful complex behind us that, as long as it's an outdoor event, boy, I would love to see us utilize it and at least send these kids out, send them up or whatever. I know you feel the same way, so I'm not going to beat it up, but I just need it for the record, because again, the public thinks because they contact us that we tell you what to do, and I can't stress it enough, it doesn't happen that way.
I've received many emails myself, and I have responded to each of those, so hopefully after tonight they will understand that we will be in touch through the principal as soon as the decision is made.
Thank you, Dr. Guccio. It is appreciated, as always. At this time, board member remarks. I will start to my left with Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm not really concerned that I'm going to repeat myself in reference to the Oaken Main School project or the library that's proposed. I'm going to stress that inclusion is a must. I can't tell you how much I want to stress that. We need to be careful, all those that are involved in this project, that we do not become exclusive by default because we just choose not to go above and beyond to include all children in this city. So let it be known that I just repeated myself again. It needs to be inclusive, and it needs to serve all the children of Vineland. I'm all for choices for our children. I'm all for giving opportunities, positive opportunities for our children and our kids to participate in. But again, it needs to be inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Mr. Sabrana.
I share the frustration of everyone who spoke tonight, and also the people who've reached out to me privately to say that our kids need to be back in school. The frustration has been because we seem to take one step forward and 4 steps back, and that pattern's repeated for a very long time now. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't make this decision unilaterally, but the number one issue has always been the safety of the children, and that's what I think is in the minds of most of the people that are making decisions. Whether they're correct or not, we can't really know that.
I just wish, and I can't wish it to be over any sooner than it will be, but I wish it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Silva.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Cataspati.
Thank you, Ms. DiRenza, for sharing that wonderful story about the wonderful work the students that are doing that you recognized. What an enlightening and positive example those 4 young ladies are. I know this is probably not proper English, but those students' story did my heart good and brought me to tears when I brought you to tears, so thank you for bringing that to us. The VEA and Ms. DiRenza recognized many of our educators tonight. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. To those maintenance workers recognized, thank you for the great job that you're doing. For the bus drivers recognized, thank you for being there and for your hard work. If you think about it, our bus drivers are the first and last people that many of our students see, so thank you for being there for them. When I was looking over our retirement list, I realized there's a combined 178 years of service retiring. To those retiring, I sincerely thank you for all the years of service and dedication you've given to our students. For those of you who came out tonight and voiced your concerns, thank you. It takes guts to do that. I do share your frustrations along with my fellow board members about our children needing to be back in school. However, we do have to sometimes err on the side of caution. We don't get to make that decision. We have to make sure that they're safe first. A big thank you to Mr. Mustarell and his staff for working so diligently on our budget this year. I know what a hard job it is. Mr. Fry, Dr. Rossi, Dr. Sneathan, Dr. Gruccio, Ms. Godlewski, Mr. Provenzano, Mr. Farinaccio, Mr. Hall, Mr. Mustarell, Gina, Mr. Berman, all of our teachers and support staff. I hope I got everybody out here. I can't thank you enough for what you do day in and day out for our district. Everyone, please have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you, Ms. Cataspati. Ms. Acosta.
I would just like to echo my fellow board members' sentiments and congratulate those that were recognized today, the students, teachers, Mr. Farinucci's, the employees recognized. It's wonderful to see that everyone is really putting out 100% plus. It's not to say that the situation has not been difficult for all, but again, and I reiterate this, I know that for many students and parents, and I acknowledge Ms. Nooks, who is here and talked about her 5 children. As a mother with a daughter in school who, from a mental health point of view, is just feeling very isolated and not motivated, I think it's greatly impacted a lot of students in a lot of different ways. One of the things that hopefully we can do hopefully by the time we meet again, is just to get some kind of idea of where our kids are right now in terms of whether or not they've met, what kind of learning gains they've had, particularly in math and English. I know that we have the tools to be able to collect that data so that we can appropriately address those children that really have fallen behind, because we know they're there. I also understand, in terms of the summer program, I'd like to be able to reach out to as many children as possible if we see that they have, they've lost or they haven't reached the benchmarks that they should have reached in terms of their grade level. So I feel that we have to look a little more closely, not just at failing students, but children that really have not reached that benchmark and really get them the help that they need this summer. So we may want to look at expanding that program. I know that I'll be meeting with Mr. Fry and the curriculum committee, and we can have a bigger discussion about this. But I'd ask parents and students, just hold on. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel really confident that soon there may be some semblance of normalcy once we get our kids back in school. But I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work and just offer you my support, and if there's anything I can do, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. Mr. Holmes?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Fiocchi?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Spinelli?
The only thing that I just want to say tonight is my decision for the Oak and Main School is not personal, and that I wish you guys nothing but the best, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with the building.
Thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Dr. Gruccio?
Thank you. First of all, as I said last month, when you see the things that our students and our staff across the board are doing through this difficult time, it's amazing, and we have a lot to be proud of here in Vineland. Often we hear the negative things, but we have people that are doing amazing stuff out there in our schools and throughout the district, and I thank all of them for the jobs they do every day. Secondly, I'd like to take a minute to thank Margaret Venturi from Berkshire and Hathaway. She began a food drive for the students of Vineland Public Schools. She then shared that with her colleagues, and they also began for their communities to do the same thing. Many of our businesses stepped up and really supported the effort. We had Pediatric Associates, Botino ShopRite, Larry's 2, many local doctors' offices. They all donated food and gift cards. She did this venture in honor of Pearl Giordano, who was very active in our community and passed away a little while ago. So she did this in honor of her. The results were amazing. Everybody stepped up to the plate. We were shocked when we saw how much food was being delivered, and we were able to serve 1,000 families right before the spring break. So I thank her and everybody involved, and it was a wonderful program. Also, the people here in the Vineland Board of Ed made 60 baskets up, Easter baskets, for our preschool and elementary families in need. So I want to thank them as well, because they were beautiful and they took a lot of time, and I really thank them for their time and effort. The next thing I'd like to mention is our 5-star awards. As I'm sure you know, in the past, every year, we have different cafeterias that are recognized who go above and beyond in food safety every year. And I'd like to announce the schools that received this recognition in the Vineland district. First, there is DePalato School, Pilla School, Duran School, Rossi School, Wallace School, Vineland High School South, Winslow School, Many School, Danbarcy School, Memorial School, and Petway School. So congratulations to all of those workers in our cafeteria. Thank you for the fine job that you do, and we're happy to recognize you this evening. And last but not least, I would just like to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Holmes and to Mr. Fry. Hope you have, I'm sorry you had to spend it here at the board, but I hope you had a good day, and I wish you both a very happy birthday.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio. A couple things this evening. Let me start out with Ms. Tucker. Ms. Tucker, thank you for coming to the podium tonight and sharing your thoughts with the board. Nonprofit organizations are something that a community like ours would not survive without, because there are many people that give. I don't want you to be discouraged by the decision that was made this evening, but I want you to we are the Vineland Board of Education, but there is also a city council in Vineland. There are many vacant buildings as we drive around there. Maybe I'll plant that seed a little bit in their ear and make a visit to one of their meetings and see if they're interested in some type of a donation to the nonprofit. I mean, don't think this was just a one and done. Continue to push. And I do thank you for coming to the podium this evening. Secondly, the Vineland Community Foundation, I wish you the best of luck with this new endeavor. I've only known Mr. Rivera for a long time, and I see he's a man of, where I'm a man of a lot of words, he's a man of few words. But the word that he said tonight that continues to echo in my mind was the word inclusive. And I share that same vision as he does. And I know the people that are associated with this, you're called the Vineland Community Foundation for a reason. We didn't call it anything else but that, correct? So again, keep that as your mission, and I'm sure things will be successful, and I wish you best of luck with that. When Mr. Martin approaches the podium, I always get a little nervous because he does the homework, and he questioned MTSS on the website, so I think we need to take a peek at that and make sure that it gets to the satisfaction level. First of all, you took the time to look, and second of all, to pick it apart. I respect that and appreciate that. So, Dr. Guccio, please take a look at that website, make sure that it, or Jeff, give a little pointers on that. I would definitely appreciate that. And thank you for speaking tonight. Last thing, I'm really not a fan of this 20 feet apart thing. So I would like to, with our May meeting, if the board members feel comfortable, I will wear my mask, and I would like to get back to close business because I just feel like we are miles away, and I do think it affects the way some of our meetings go because it does feel distant. I did took some time to reflect on our last special meeting, and I thank Ms. Spinelli and Mr. Fiocchi for having a discussion with me after that meeting because, you know, I never said I was perfect, nor do I claim to be, but I have a job to make sure that Robert's rules are followed, and I have a job to make sure that our meetings continue in a proper fashion that I see fit. I apologize if I offended anyone publicly, but I will continue to lead the way I choose to. And of course, if anyone does has an issue, they know my number, and we will continue to do our business as we do. The last thing I would like to say is I have felt a little bit distant as a board, and as Mr. Martin does, I do the homework, and I think you probably will agree with me on this one. I feel that we have a distant board, and it's because we have strayed away from something known as work session 1 week, regular meeting, vote the next. That was when we did the nuts and bolts. We digested, discussed, worked our butts off at a work session and came back the next week and pretty much wrapped it up in a half hour's time. I know it's not a popular thing, but I would like to have some more discussion. I'm not saying every month, but come September, maybe we get back to that. Because it is important, because there are things the public brings to our attention at a work session that we can have a week to think about versus having to vote on it in a 5 or 10 minute turnaround. And I do apologize, I said that was the last thing. Ms. Nook, I thank you for being honest. I too had 2 kids go through the system. You told me 5, K to 12. You are vested in the Vineland Public School District. You believe in the Vineland Public School District. You're passionate or you wouldn't have come to that podium, and you care. You didn't email or anything like that. You came to the source. And that's what I ask. What I do ask of you, it is not perfect, and I know you're not happy. But I would like to see your face in May and June, and I'd like to know, is it better? Because I don't like to stand on the bar. I like to do chin-ups on the bar. And that's what we're all about in the Vineland Public School District. So thank you. I would like to say good night to everyone, and I would ask for a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you and good night.